Hi, this is the first video in the series Kubernetes Simplified. In this, we'll understand the need for Kubernetes, a bit about its origin, what Kubernetes is, what it provides, and what it doesn't. So let's get started. First, we'll understand the need for Kubernetes. Monolithic applications has components that are tightly coupled and have to be deployed as a single entity. Changes to one component requires redeployment of the whole application. And let's say if any part of a monolith isn't scalable, then the whole application becomes unscalable. These problems have forced us to split the monolithic applications into smaller, independently deployable and scalable components called microservices. Having consistent deployment environment. One of the biggest problems that organizations have to face is the differences in the environments their applications run on. Not only is there a huge difference between development and production environments, there are differences between individual production machines too. Also, the production machine might change over time. To overcome these issues, ideally applications should run in exact same environment during development and in production. Also, you should have the ability to deploy additional applications to the same server without affecting any of the existing applications on that server. Practice DevOps culture. In the past, developers' job was to develop the application and hand it off to the operations team for deployment and maintenance. But now, organizations are realizing the benefit of having the same team that develops the application to also take care of the deployment plus the whole life cycle. This is known as DevOps. In DevOps, ideally you want your developers to deploy the applications themselves without knowing or worrying about the hardware infrastructure. Kubernetes lets us achieve all this by abstracting away the hardware and thereby allowing developers to deploy their applications and allowing system admins to focus on the underlying infrastructure. Now, Google was probably the first firm who realized all this need for running the production workloads at scale. Now that we understood the need for Kubernetes, let's understand origin of the Kubernetes. In 2003-2004, Google introduced Borg, a large-scale internet cluster management system which ran thousands of jobs from thousands of applications across many clusters, each with up to tens of thousands of machines. In 2013, Google introduced Omega Cluster Management System, a flexible, scalable scheduler for large compute clusters. In 2014, Google introduced Kubernetes as an open source version of Borg. And in July 2015, Kubernetes version 1.0 gets released. So, what is Kubernetes? Kubernetes is an orchestrator of cloud native apps, meaning it deploys and manages microservices. It came out of Google and now open sourced and lives with CNCF, which is the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. Kubernetes and Docker are complementary, meaning it's common to develop your apps with Docker and use Kubernetes to orchestrate them. The name Kubernetes originates from Greek meaning helmsman or pilot. It's often shortened as K8s, where the 8 represents the number of letters between the first letter K and the last letter S. A typical Kubernetes cluster looks something like this, where the cluster has multiple nodes and each node is running a container runtime like Docker, Containerd, etc., which conforms to CRI or the container runtime interface. Kubernetes decides which node should run certain applications on, when to scale up or down and execute updates, etc. So, what does Kubernetes provide? Service discovery and load balancing. It provides ability to discover other services running in the cluster and capability to load balance and distribute the network traffic so that the deployment is stable. Storage orchestration. It provides ability to mount a storage system such as local storage, public cloud providers, and more. It provides automated rollouts and rollbacks. Self-healing. It restarts failed containers, replace containers, kill containers that don't respond to your health check, and doesn't advertise them to the clients until they are ready to serve. Secret and configuration management. It lets you store sensitive information like passwords, SSH keys, OAuth tokens, etc. Now let's look at some of the things that Kubernetes does not. It does not limit the types of applications supported. If an application can run in a container, then it can run on Kubernetes. It does not build deploy your application. That should be taken care by your organization preference of CI/CD workflows. It does not provide application level services like database, cache, etc. It does not dictate logging, monitoring, and alerting solutions. You are free to choose any third party tools for these as per the application requirements. That's all I had in this first video in the Kubernetes Simplified series. More topics coming up in subsequent videos. Thanks for watching.